The Golden Land arc is the epitome of a paradox, from fighting to the death over coexistence, human versus demon magic, and how far does the impossible being possible actually go. This entire storyline is filled with contradictions that will get your head spinning. But let's discuss what all these various examples are and the implications behind them. Oh yeah, spoiler warning, I do make references to future arcs, but stay anyways because you can't help yourself. And before we continue, it's another day in the Frieren Manga hiatus. Yamada Kanehito and Abe Tsukasa are nearing completion of what will happen to the great mage Serie, the feet goddess. In the script, it says Serie won't see what hits her.
不合格だ。帰れ。
The Golden Land arc feels like a much bigger picture storyline, as it deals with the overarching philosophical components of what the boundaries are and what you can do in life. After a brief story that focused on a couple of important side characters in First Class Mages in Ganao and Metode, with the help of Fern and Stark, the main protagonist of the story just stood on the sidelines to watch her Southernlander apprentice fight for her life against someone that could exploit her weakness. And so as Frieren's party makes it to the Golden Land to eventually accept Lernen's request to help Denken, Frieren becomes one of the most critical components to understand the difference between demons and humans as a whole, what the Demon King truly wanted from the Great War that led humans to only a third of its peak population during the Golden Age, and eventually swinging to the other end of the spectrum of almost demon extinction. Her involvement with the hero's party against Bose the Immortal, one of the 7 demon sages of destruction that specializes in barrier magic with Himmel, becoming the epitome of making the impossible possible. By following the main protagonist in Frieren, she shows why demons can or cannot coexist, how 2 creatures like an elf or a greater demon that has lived for many centuries stack up against each other, and what the limitations are between what's possible and impossible. Everything Kanehito has built into the Frieren story can be seen as a paradox, a contradiction, and that's what makes it so thought-provoking about Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And there is no other storyline than the Golden Land that encapsulates everything we know up until the end of chapter 104, where we have our current answers. But the paradoxes still persist. What can really be possible if nothing is impossible? Well, Macht didn't learn a damn thing. In actuality, he reverted to the very ways of what we know demons would do: survive, run away, and hold a friend hostage as a means to save his own skin. In the end, this should mean that coexistence between humans and demons is impossible, correct? Maybe. When looking at Frieren and Solitar's characters, they are actually in agreement with the idea of coexistence. Demons and humans cannot exist. Macht cannot fathom Frieren's question of him yeeting people to deter people from entering the Golden Land. All the while, he refers to himself as a pacifist. Solitar's behavior from the Goddess Monument arc to the Golden Land arc is perplexing. Given everything we know about demons, she's a coward, knows not to underestimate humans, only fights when the odds are in her favor, and when it comes to putting her life at risk and wanting to yeet Macht because she knows coexistence is leading demons to extinction, she'd rather save her own skin. But what's even more confusing is that she said she wants to help Macht on his journey for coexistence to prove that it is a pipe dream that leads to an inevitable end, a travesty. However, she's also said she wants to help him so he can show her that coexistence is possible. And so why the hell would Solitar help Macht if she acknowledges that someone like Frieren has the ability to yeet him? In which her threat level, or in the case of pure power alone, judging by mana levels, Solitar, Macht, and Frieren can be seen as all equal threats to each other. Remember that Schlatt, the omniscient, can see up to 1,000 years into the future, and the Demon King still chose coexistence to develop these human emotions. It is an ever-existing paradox, even when we know Macht didn't achieve those emotions. And that is where time gives a glimmer of possibility to the idea that maybe 1,000 years into the future, coexistence is possible by, ironically, convergent evolution continually do its part for creatures to survive, because human emotions might be the key components for survival for any race or creatures. That right there is the big picture paradox occurring in this story, and is actually further fueled into the Goddess Monument arc and the Foundation Festival arc, which all have the ingredients necessary to expand on these paradoxes because of Himmel's character as it relates to Commander Reve of the Shadow Warriors, but that will be for another video. Other paradoxes that exist is the magical ability of mages between humans and demons. Magic is about imagination, and it's quite clear from what Serie said against Macht that there is a limitation, and it is your own mind. A monster like Macht can't perceive helping people, which takes us to the topic of magical abilities as it relates to both humans and demons. Macht uses an ability called Diagodes. It changes matter into what looks to be gold, but without the qualities that humans would deem valuable, like a currency. On the opposite spectrum, we know that Frieren eventually analyzed up to 100 years of Macht's memories that already included her own experience against Macht's Diagodes 600 years prior. That turned her arm into gold, and it took about an entire century just to undo his magic. She was able to undo it on herself, then Denken, and eventually across the entire Golden Land that included Denken's own hometown in the Fortress City of Weiss. This is where I will remind everyone what Serie said to Macht. Forcing something to turn into gold and changing it back are two totally different things. Transmuting people into gold does not have an equal value to creating people out of gold. A monster like you, who is incapable of understanding humanity, can't return the people of Weiss to normal. Once again, Frieren can only undo Diagodes, and Macht can only use Diagodes, except when it's used on himself. Why, you may ask? Demons are naturally selfish creatures and all for self-preservation. They are not communal creatures. Like what we saw at the end of the Golden Land, Macht tried to save himself to the very end, above everything else, including coexistence. So it makes perfect sense, and it's actually poetic that he can undo Diagodes when it's used on himself. As far as we know about the Frieren world, there are some magic that only humans can do, and there are some magic that only demons can do. Demons, and especially greater demons, possess naturally born, immutable abilities that humanity could never possess, except there are some abilities that bridges that gap where both humanity and demons alike can use these same spells, like Solitar's Talk to the Hand. Frieren observed and copied Solitar's move because of the simplicity of it. Zoltrak becoming a foundational fundamental part of human magic is probably the most ironic because of its ability to be used for warfare. One where it was used from demons onto humans are now used from humans to humans, like in the Southernland Wars. On the flip side, Solitar becomes that example for demons, capitalized by her undoing of the Great Barrier. She is able to unravel and analyze human magic from various backgrounds. That includes magic contributed by great mages. Not only that, she was able to teach Macht how to use it, and it was commanded by Gluck to teach human magic to Denken. Coming full circle to the possibility of demons and humans being able to understand magic on a fundamental level, the Goddess Monument flashback is another perfect example of bridging that magical knowledge between both human and demon magic. Except the demons wanted to find future Frieren, force her to reveal the magic of the future, and then eliminate her. Is exactly what Frieren is afraid of doing in helping the Demon King army go through a magical revolution. This is all not taking into account the magic of the goddess that is generally mastered by priests, which offers a lot of resistance to different kinds of curses, healing capabilities, and overall support spells. And moving on to one of the most polarizing shonen qualities of it all, in what Himmel the Hero said to Frieren in that flashback when they were trapped in Bose the Immortal's barrier, bringing up the fact that magic cannot be created unless you can imagine it, right? It leads to one of the most shonen sayings and unwavering belief we have in oneself, that something impossible can be possible. However, common sense tells us what? There are limits, and the Frieren story explores this in many respects, including the latest storyline in the Foundation Festival arc. It's a prominent theme in the Golden Land arc because we learn that both Macht and the Demon King wanted to obtain human emotions for coexistence. Solitar and Frieren are on the same side of the spectrum that coexistence is impossible, a pipe dream if you will, because chasing coexistence has led humanity to become a third of its population from the Golden Age, and demon existence almost went extinct due to the Great War for coexistence. And now we have that flashback with the hero's party, where the impossible can be possible. All you need is the belief that you can do something in order for it to potentially exist. In the end, this story seeks to explore the conundrum, the paradox of the limits of what can be possible. By the arc's end, we have our answer with Macht's death, but Kanehito still leaves the door open for the possibility that the impossible can still be possible with coexistence 1,000 years into the future.